operations manager to make better decisions. Operations managers face two kind of situation: the uncertainty or risk. If there is uncertainty that you can not calculate the probability, you should use 5 methods to help you make better decisions. If you remember, I told you these 5 methods were maximax, maximin, minimax, regret, and worst and equal likelihood. These methods are used when there are uncertainty or vague. You cannot calculate probability. You cannot determine risk. Okay. I gave an example to you. I told you when there are uncertainty, it means there are some states of nature that can happen, each of them, but you don't know. For example, you know that for your decision, there are 2 states. In textile company, operation managers have faced 2 states of nature or 2 situations in future, but they don't know which situation will happen, will occur in future. But they know either good foreign competitive condition may happen or poor foreign competitive condition may happen. By use of experience, by use of the statistical data or historical data, they can estimate some payout or some result or some profit for each of decision, for each of states of nature. Then, by use of dramatic, is there any problem? What's the meaning of the WS? Okay. Oh, very nice. I didn't know. Yes. No, it's okay. It's okay. No, it's okay. Thank you. Because I learned a good word. WS means Walaikum assalam. Okay, okay. No, it's very good. I'm very happy when I see there is a good relationship between you. Okay, and I hope this you keep this good relationship, and you can make a friendship together, and you can work together very well. And I hope you can work and even make a partnership to establish a company together. Yeah, you can work together. You can make a link between your companies if your industry is related. And I'm very happy to see there is a good relationship between you. So I wish the best for all of you. Okay. So I told you when there are some uncertainty or weight, you can write as operation manager, you can write all of the essays of nature, and you can write your decisions, estimate payoff or results for your each of for each of decision in each of essays of nature. Then, by use of 5 methods in uncertainty situation, you can make better decisions. Maximax means the maximum of maximums. If you remember, I told you at first for each decision, you should determine the maximum number between essays of nature for each decision. In expand, between 800,000 and 500,000 that you estimated, which number is maximum? 800,000 was maximum. Okay. So, for expand, you can draw a circle, or you can write this number in front of expand in the last table. As you can see in the last table, in front of expand we write 800,000. In front of maintain, we wrote 1,300,000 because it was the maximum for decision maintain. And for sale, no difference, 320,000. What was the maximum between these three numbers? 1,300,000 was the maximum. It means that the maximum of maximum. So the Maximax method tells you the maintain is the best situation or best decision. Maximum tells you at first you should maximum of minimums. It means at first you should determine minimums for each decision. That means for expand, the minimum number is 500,000. Okay, in front of expand, in the last table, you write 500,000. For maintain, minus 150,000 was minimum. And for sale, no difference, 320,000. Maximum means maximum of minimums. So, among these minimums that you just determined, the 500,000 is the maximum. It's more than minus 150,000 and more than 320,000. So, maximum method tell you the expand is the best decision. Okay. If you remember, I told you the minimax reglet has a rule. The rule is that for each state of nature in its column, for example, in good quality competitive conditions, if you look at the good quality competitive conditions, at first you should select the maximum number. 1,300,000 was the maximum number for good quality competitive conditions for all decisions. Then you should minus each of the numbers for each decision from maximum number. 1,300,000 minus 800 produce 500,000. This is the new result for expand, and this is different with 500,000 that was for poor finding competitive condition. They are completely different, and you shouldn't confuse them. 1,300,000 minus 1,300,000 produces 0, and we repeat for all of the decisions. We do exactly the same for poor finding competitive conditions. When you see the result for poor finding competitive condition in last slide, I think last 3 slides, the maximum number for poor finding competitive condition was 500,000 US dollar. You should exactly the same. 500,000 minus 500,000 produce 0. 500,000 minus 150,000 produce 650,000. And 500,000 minus 320,000 produce 180,000. Okay. Now, by use of this method, for each decision, we have new numbers, we have new results, or new payoffs. For example, for expand, 500,000 and 0 are new payoffs. For maintain, 0 and 650,000 are new payoffs. And for sell, 980,000 and 180,000 are new results. Okay. Minimax bracket. When you produce the new results, now you should select maximum number for each decision, because minimax means minimum of maximums. When you tell minimum of maximums, the second word is maximum. At first, you should select maximum, then you determine minimum. So, for each decision, the maximum number at first should be determined. Expand 500,000 and 0, 500,000 is maximum. For maintain, 0 and 650,000, 650,000 is maximum. And for sell, 980,000 and 180,000, 980,000 is maximum. Okay. So you determine the maximum number for each of decisions. Now the minimum of maximums means among this maximum that you just determined, you should determine, or you should select the minimum numbers among them. 500,000 is minimum that belongs to decision of expand. Yes, very good. So minimax regret tells you should select expand. Course criteria. It was very easy. I told you based of experience, operation managers give an coefficient of optimism to each of states of nature. For example, in this example, operation managers give 30% or 0.3 to good funding competitive conditions. Good funding competitive conditions, so take 0.7 because the sum of them should be 1. It's a rule for Howard's criteria. When you give coefficient of optimism to each of them, another take 1 minus first one. Expand 800,000 multiply 0.3 plus 500 multiply 0.7 because 0.3 belongs to good funding competition conditions based on this example. This is only example. You can give this number to poor funding competitive conditions, no problem. It depends on your business and depends on your experience. For maintain, you should do the same. And for sell, you should do exactly the same. When you calculate these numbers, you should select the maximum numbers. Among these, 590,000 takes the maximum, and it's more than maintain and sell. So this decision tells you expand is the best. Equal likelihood means equal. It means that you should weight, or you should give an equal weight or equal coefficient to each of states of nature. We have two states of nature, so 0.5. For expand, for maintain and sell, we do exactly the same as last method. 800,000 multiply 0.5 plus 500,000 multiply 0.5 produce 650,000. We do the same for maintain and sell. If you see the slide. Which number is the maximum among these numbers? Among 650,000, 575,000, and 320,000, 650,000 is very good, the maximum. That belongs to expand decision. So this method also tell you expand is the best. Okay, 4 methods out of 5 methods tell you expand is the best. So you must select the expand. Don't forget that you must do all of the methods together and then see which decision has been selected by the most vote or the most select by these methods. Then you must select that decision. Okay? If you have any question, I'm at your service. I think today everything is clear for you. Okay? And I think you can understand better today. But if anybody has questions, don't hesitate. Let me know. Okay. Now, please let me go to next slide. Decision making with probability. I told you the 5 methods that we discussed together should be used when operation managers don't determine the risk and don't determine or are not able to determine probability. When you are able to calculate risk, determine risk, and through this determining risk, you can calculate probability. You should do different. Now, there is another formula when the probability can be calculated easily. How operation managers calculate probability? They based on experience, based on statistical data that they can gather through, for example, questionnaire among customers, that can gather through exchange stock organization, or they can consult with economical experts through newspaper, magazine. They can gather data and then analyze the data. Then through this analyzing data, they can estimate probability for each of states of nature in the future. Probability means for each of states of nature: good foreign competitive, poor foreign competitive, good economical condition, bad economical condition, high demand, low demand. Okay, if you can assign, or if you can allocate probability to each of states of nature, you should use a formula that is called expected value formula. This formula is called expected value, EV. EV is abbreviated for expected value, like WS, that is abbreviated for Walaikum Assalam. Okay? So, by use of this formula, so this formula only is used when you can estimate or determine probability. P x multiply x means that probability of each state of nature, multiply payoff that each state of nature. This is exactly the same as odds or equal likelihood. The method is the same, but here we have probability. For example, let me give the same example, textile company. Operation managers have succeeded to calculate probability for good following competitive conditions. They have found out that probability to happen for good following competitive condition is 70%. So P good is 0.7 or 70% is probability that good following competitive conditions happen in future. And 30% has been assigned or has been allocated to poor following competitive conditions. We should calculate expected value for each of decisions. 800,000 multiply 0.7 plus 500,000 multiply 0.3. Each payoff should be multiplied in its own probability, and then you should sum together or add up together these numbers. If you calculate this line, expected value for expand is calculated as much as 710,000. Expected value is the same for maintain. It's calculated exactly the same for maintain that produced 865,000. And expected value for sell is 320,000. Now, each decision that has more expected value should be selected by operation managers. Expected value for maintain is the maximum. So this method tells you should select the maintain. I repeat again, there are two situations for operation managers: risk situation or uncertainty risk situation. If there is uncertainty situation, you should choose the 5 methods that I discussed to you. But if there is risk situation for you, and through the determining risk, you can calculate probability, you must select this method. This method is definitely different, and it cannot be used with the 5 methods that I told you. They are completely different. At first, you need to select your situation, risk situation or uncertainty. Then you must select one of them only. The risk situation has only one formula, expected value. But uncertainty situation has 5 methods that should be used together for uncertainty. Okay? Is it clear? Very good. Very, very good. Okay, decision making tool finished. If you have any question, I'm at your service. Other than, please let me upload a new chapter. Okay, let me continue. So, let me upload a new chapter. Forecasting. Forecasting is or new discussion. What's the meaning of the forecasting? Anybody know? What's the meaning of forecasting? What is the meaning of forecasting? Yes, very good. Predict, estimate. Yes, very good. Exactly. Foreseeing, very good. What is forecasting? Forecasting, yes, in Farsi we call it pishbini. Process of predicting a future event. Process of predicting a future event is called forecasting. Yes. What's the meaning of future event? For example, you want to produce product for next month, or next day, or next year, next period of time. Okay. You want to plan for yourself. You want to arrange programs to produce a specified quantity. Okay, so you have to forecast the number of customers, or you have to forecast the number of demand for next month, or next day, or next year. Because by use of the forecasting, you can estimate a number for your demand, and you can make better decision, or you can make better process to produce a specified quantity. If you produce the more than that product, it is cost for you. If you produce the less than it, you cannot deliver, or you cannot serve your customers very good. So by use of forecasting, you can decrease your cost, and you can plan better for production. You can purchase enough raw material. You can hire enough personnel for your new production line. And another thing that by use of forecasting, you can better do it. Underlying basis of all business decisions. For example, for your production, for your inventory, that means for purchasing raw material, for your hiring personnel, for your selecting facility, purchasing new machinery, or locating a new facility, you have to do forecasting. That helps you decrease your cost. In operations management, forecasting time horizons can be categorized into three groups. Short-range forecast. If you forecast for up to 1 year, maximum next year, or generally it's less than 3 months, but it can be used for maximum 1 year. It means that you want to forecast your demand for next year, up to next year. For example, you can forecast for next 12 months, maximum 12 months. That means 1 year. But it's generally for less than 3 months. If you forecast for 3 months later, or 2 months later, or 1 month later, this is called short-range forecast. It happens for activities such as purchasing, job scheduling, workforce level, job assignments, and production levels. For making decisions about these activities, so you should select short-range forecast. For medium-range forecast, it means that you forecast for between 3 months to 3 years in the future. Sales and production planning and budgeting are activities that should be forecasted for medium range. And long range forecast means that you forecast for more than 3 years. For example, you want to forecast it 5 years later, 4 years later. New product planning or new technology that you want to create and then send to market. Facility location, research and development are activities that we forecasted for long range. Okay? Any question? Okay. Let me continue. Distinguishing differences between these ranges. For medium and long range forecast, on the other word, okay, one of your friends asked which forecasting is more valuable for business. As I told you, it depends on your activity. For example, if you want to plan for your purchasing, if you have plan for job scheduling, it's better to use the short range forecast. It's better to forecast the 1 month later or 2 months later. If you want to plan for the sales and your production, it's better to use the medium range forecast. Yes. It depends on your activity. If you want to plan for a new product planning, new technology, research and development, you should forecast the 3 years later, 4 years later, the more than 3 years. Because you want to introduce new technology, it takes a long time to make it and then send it to market. So you have to forecast the future, the long range for future. Okay? Medium and long range forecasts deal with more comprehensive issues and support management decisions regarding planning and product plans and processes. Short-term forecasting usually employs different methodologies than long-term forecasting. Yes. The methods that you use for forecasting for short-term is different with the methods that you want to use for long range or long-term, long period. They are synonyms. On the other hand, short-term forecast tends to be more accurate than longer-term forecast. Because short-term is near and it happens, for example, less than 1 year, you can calculate, you can forecast all of the months in the future, but not more than 1 year, less than 1 year. For example, 3 months later, 6 months later, 8 months later. So all of them is short term. It's less than 1 year. Okay, so there are the points about these ranges that you should know about them. Types of forecast. Sometimes you forecast for demand in the future, for number of customers in the future. But another forecast also has been listed in this slide. Economic forecast also should be done by managers. You should know about the economical issues in the future. You should forecast inflation rate, money supply, housing start, and something like this are called economical forecast in the future. Technological forecast predict the rate of technological progress or technological advances. Impacts the development of new products. They are called technology forecasts. Yes, housing start. It's related to house construction. It means the construction economy because it's one of the most important economy in each country, housing. Okay, housing or construction industry. When they should, for example, construct a more building, construct, or when the construction industry is good, offices, yes, everything that is related to construction or housing economy. We call it in Farsi اقتصاد مسکن. Demand forecast. Demand forecast is very, very important because when you want to plan for purchasing raw materials, you want to know how much or how many you should purchase for raw materials. Because more than it, if you don't forecast without any and purchase without anything, without any using mind, using tax, you purchase very more than desired, and it costs for you. If you purchase less than the standard, you cannot serve all of your customers. So your customer switch to another supplier, another company. So this is very important that by use of the demand forecast, you can forecast your demand for next month, for 2 months later, and based on your forecasting, you can make better decision for purchasing. The strategic importance of forecasting. Human resource. For example, by use of forecasting, you can determine how many persons you should hire, how many persons you should train, how many persons you should lay off. Capacity. Capacity shortage can result in undependable delivery, lose of customers, and lose of market share. So, by use of forecasting, you can adjust or you can arrange your capacity to produce only those demands. You can meet those demands. Supply chain management also. In supply chain management, forecasting can help you good supplier relations and price advantage. When you know how much you want to produce the next month or 2 months later or 2 years later, you can make order to supplier, and supplier can produce materials or raw materials for you in the best quantity, and it can give you the price advantages. Because the suppliers don't like to its customer return the extra material or make second order immediately and tell the supplier, for example, we are very sorry, we make order in wrong quantity, we face shortage, and please produce again for us. Because your supplier also is planning for producing raw material for you, and they know about your order and about your situation. Okay. 7 steps in forecasting. There are 7 steps in forecasting. At first, determine the use of the forecast. Then select the items to be forecasted. For example, demand. You want to forecast your demand for next month. Determine the time horizon of forecast. You should select short range, medium range, or long range, or long period. After that, you should select the forecasting models that we will discuss together, then gather the data, make the forecast, validate and implement results. After forecasting, you should compare your forecast with real number. What's the meaning of real number? For example, you forecast the demand for next month, for January, for example. January finish. Now you know the real demand because January has finished. Forecasting model means forecasting methods that we will discuss together. There are some methods that can help you to forecast in accurate way. Okay? When the January finished, now you can calculate the real demand for January and you know about the real demand. When you compare the real demand by the demand that you have forecasted in the December, the month before the January, you would find out that they are different a little because they cannot be the same. The forecasted demand and the real demand cannot be the same. But you should act or you should practice in the way that minimize the error. What's the meaning of error? The real number or real demand minus the forecasted demand means error or deviation. The both of them. I will explain later. The real number determines when the month finish or when the year finish because you know about the real number. Forecasts are seldom perfect. It's clear, yes. Because by use of forecast, you cannot determine the real number for your demand. It's only forecasting. The forecasting number should be near to real number, but they cannot be the same unless accidentally. Most techniques assume an underlying stability in the system. When you want to use the forecasting method, you should assume or you should imagine the most of situations are stable. For example, economical situation is stable, political situation is stable, market situation is stable, and then you choose forecasting method. If they change, your forecasting also change and your planning will change. Project family and aggregated forecasts are more accurate than individual project forecasts. If you want to do forecasting for each of the products, it is less accurate for all of the family products together. It means that if you forecast for all products together, you can better forecast. Okay. Any question? Okay. There are two kind of methods for forecasting: qualitative methods and quantitative methods. Qualitative methods used when situation is vague or uncertain and little data exists. For example, for new products, for new technology, because this is the first time that you want to send a new technology to market. Imagine the Apple face this method, face this problem, because for first time they wanted to send the iPad to market. That was a new technology. So this method involves in intuition and experience. What's the meaning of intuition? Do you know? What's the meaning of intuition? Very good, perception. We call it in Farsi درک اقتصادی. شم درک. So only based on experience and intuition, they can forecast the demand for new product or new technology in the market. Very good. Very good, Mr. Samir Jam. Perception without conscious reasoning. Very good. This is the perfect meaning for intuition. So, for new technology, only intuition and experience can help operation manager to forecast the demand for their new technology or new product. Quantitative methods. Quantitative methods is used generally and widely by managers currently at the moment. Used when situation is stable and historical data exists. What's the meaning of historical data? Because you know about real demand in past months, past year, because they have finished and the real demand exists now for you. By use of the real demand in the past or in the last months or last days, you can use them to forecast the future, the next month or next day. So they are used for existing products that you are producing. And it's used for current technology. It's not for new technology. So when you want to forecast for demand for your product that you are currently producing, you can use quantitative methods because you have historical data. This method involves mathematical techniques. For example, you are producing color television. You want to forecast demand for 2 months later, next month, 3 months later, to plan for production process. On the other hand, also you can provide the questionnaire and distribute them among the customer and then gather them and analyze data to see they will welcome or they will purchase your product in next month or in the future or not. What consumers say and what they actually do are often different, sometimes difficult to answer, because some of the customer or some of people can answer wrong to your questions, and it can make problem for your forecasting in the future. So it's better we use the historical data from past months or past years that exist now. Moving average method or MA. MA or moving average method is the first quantitative method that can be used by operation managers to forecast in the future. Moving average is the formula. Sigma demand in previous end period. For example, 3 months, last 3 months, last 5 months, divided by them can give you a forecast demand or a demand for next month or 2 months later. Okay, it's very easy. It's enough you add up the last month together, the last real number, real demand together, and calculate the average of them. The calculating the average of the historical data gives you forecast for next month or next day. Let me give an example. For example, in a company, in the January they had 10 units demand. In the February they had 12 demand. In the March they had 13 demand. In the end of March, operation managers forecast for April. Okay, it's enough you add up these three numbers together, 10 plus 12 plus 13, and divide it by 3. It's nearly or it's almost 12. 11 2/3 means 12. Because we should round it, we should round this number. When we round it, we can tell it's nearly 12. Okay? So, operation managers forecast for April 12 units for their demand. But the April finish, the real number is 16. Okay, 16 minus 12 produce 4. The 4 is error, your error. Because the forecasting and the real demand have a little difference together. For May, April has finished. You can use the April, March, and February 12 plus 13 plus 16 divided by 3 gives you nearly 14. 13, 12, 13 means nearly 14 because we should round it. I repeat again. May finished and the real number for May was 19, but we forecast for it 14. The 19 minus 14 means produce 5. That is your error. They are near together. If the error is very big, it's very bad because it can increase your cost. Because you have planned for 14, but you face with, for example, 50. It's a big difference between the real demand in months and the number that you forecasted for it. So this method can help you to decrease this gap, decrease this difference. It's very easy. You understand the method? Okay, very good. It's very easy. It's enough you add up the last months together and divided it by the number of periods that you select. But do you know what is the standard? The standard for moving average is 3 months and 5 months. It means that it's better to calculate for the last 3 months or for the last 5 months together. You can use one of them, no problem. It's okay for all of them. This is a standard that use the 3 months or 5 months moving average. Okay, very good. Any question? Okay, very good. There are lots of moving average. When you draw a graph or diagram, the yellow line is the actual demand or actual pay, and the blue line is the forecast. Okay, if you think there is a gap between these two, okay, yes, they are different because the actual demand is determined when the month finish. You should wait to month finish to see your actual demand. But you compare them with the demand you forecasted the last month for it. If you see there is a gap, there is an error, but they are near together, there is no big. So moving average can help you to decrease this gap. So you can better make decision for purchasing, for uh, planning to produce and something like this. So this method was called moving average method. Okay. Actual demand is the real demand. Real demand means you should wait. For example, you forecast for January. Okay, you forecast for January. Before January is December. In December you forecast your demand for January. January finished. When January finished, now you know your real demand for January because the January has finished and you had some demand, yes, for your product. This demand means the real demand or actual demand that you should compare with the number that you forecasted before. Yes. Historical data means the actual demand that exists for you from the last month or last year. This means the historical data or actual demand. But for use of them, you can forecast the next month. Potential problems with this moving average. Increasing smooth the forecast but make it less sensitive to changes. Do not forecast trends well. Require extensive historical data. If you access to more historical data, for example, if you have the 30 months ago, from 30 months ago until now, on the other hand, you have 30 numbers in your hand. Every access, if you access to more historical data, your forecasting will be more accurate. But if you use only the recent months, for example, 5 months ago, 4 months ago, 3 months ago, recent months, okay, your forecast is less accurate. It's very clear because the access to more data, it means access to better data, and it means a better decision. And this method don't tell you a good trend. For example, you cannot forecast the 2 months, 5 months later, 6 months later, and you cannot determine a good trend for in the future. But there are some methods that can help you to determine a trend for future that by use of this method, you can forecast the far future. For example, 2 years ago, 2 years later, 10 months later, 50 months later, because there is a trend that you can determine the trend. When you determine the trend, you can forecast better. There is a method that can help you to forecast trend. The moving average usually is used in the shopping mall, in the shop, for shopkeepers and something like this. Okay, it's not very accurate. But you can, for example, in the bakery, in the butchers, or in the another shopping malls or supermarkets, they can use these methods for sale in the 1 month later, for example, in the next month. But the trend projection is the second method that helps you to determine a trend and forecast better. This method uses linear equation. Y equals A plus B multiplied X. Y is independent variable, Y is dependent variable, X is independent variable. A and B are constant. This is a linear equation that all of you know from high school. Linear equations means the trend. By use of this, you can calculate a linear equation for your demand that can help you forecast next month or next year longer, because you have determined a trend for this by use of this formula. Why? What is Y? Yes, one of your friends tells when the actual sales are more than forecast, it is good for a business. Sometimes it cannot be good for your business, because when the actual sale is much more than your forecast, it means that you cannot serve your customers very well. You face the shortage, and you lose your customer, and your customer switch to another company. Because you forecast to plan for your production. Sometimes you should purchase raw materials. But in some shopping malls, yes, your statement is right, Mr. Shakur. Actual sales when is more than forecast, it can be good for your business in the shopping mall, in your supermarket, and something like this. Yes, but in the company that is producing, no, it can be bad. Yes, Y is the variable that you want to forecast. For example, demand. Y is demand. X is period of time in the future. It can be day, it can be month, it can be year, it can be hour. It depends on your forecasting in your company. Now, the thing that is important here, we should calculate A and B for this formula. How we should calculate them? Is there any method? Is there any formula to calculate A and B? Yes. Please let us to see the formula E. Okay. This method also is called least square method. When you access to historical data, you can draw a diagram. Historical data is the start. Can you see the start on the diagram? blue stars. Blue stars are the historical data or the real demand from the last month or last year. Yes. When you draw this diagram, you can see they are increasing. It means that there is a trend. You can simulate this trend through a linear equation. But if you see there is a little error. Error means the deviation. For example, from this line means your forecast, and the start point means the real demand from last month or last years. Now you want to forecast the future by calculating this line. And dear Nadia, I think your computer has a problem because most of friends can see the diagram. Who cannot see the diagram? Only Nadia or oh, I think so. Your computer has problem because all of your friends can see each side. Please check your computer and you can log out and then log in. Okay. So when you see the trend in the actual demand, you can simulate them by a line. And by calculating this line equation, you can forecast future. Next month. Okay, I'm sorry about that, Nadia. Okay, I hope your problem solved and you can see. But don't worry about that, Nadia, because I will send you these slides. And if you have any problem, I'm at your service. You can send to me email and ask me again. I will explain for you. Okay. Now we want to calculate A and B that I told you. Okay. This yellow dialog tells the least square method or current method minimize the sum of the squared error or deviation. Error or deviation are the same. We want to, by use of this method, we want to minimize the error to make better decision or make better forecasting. B and A have two formula. B equal to sigma x multiply y minus n multiply x bar multiply y bar divided by sigma x in power of 2 minus n multiply x bar in power of 2. When I move pointer, you can see the pointer. When I move it, okay. Or you cannot see. Some of them can see. Okay, please let me B. Okay, this is B. Sigma xy minus n multiply x bar multiply y bar. Bar means average. X bar means average of x or average of time periods. Y is means the things that we want to forecast in the future. For example, demand. Okay, please write down this formula in piece of paper and put it in front to see. Please do it now. Okay, write down this formula on the piece of paper because I want to go next slide. Now you can see these. Yes. Our objective or purpose is calculating this line equation. Yes. Y equal A plus BX. If we can calculate this, we can forecast the demand or everything else in the future. Okay. But the things that are important, A and B are two constant numbers and they should be calculated. By use of this formula, B can be calculated by use of this formula. And A, after calculating B, you can calculate A. Because calculating A depends on calculating B. A equal Y bar minus B X bar. At first you should calculate B, then you should calculate A. B is coefficient of X. All of us studied the linear equation in high school. Okay, example. For example, a company, electrical power company, wants to use historical data to forecast the electrical power demand in the future for 2008, 2009, 2010, and continue. In 2001, 2002, 2003 in the year, okay, the electrical power demand has been written like this, as you can see in the table. Okay, this is year 2001, 2002, 2003, and they are electrical power demand in the last month or last year. Sorry. For example, 74 megawatt was the actual electrical power demand for this company in 2001. In 2010, 79, and like this. Okay, we have the historical data. We want to calculate the linear equation. At first, we have to calculate A and B by formula. Have you written formula in the piece of paper? Yes, because it's necessary. Again, I show you B and A. Please write it down on the piece of paper. Okay. At first, for calculating A, B, we have to calculate each of them. Sigma xy minus n x bar y bar. Okay. Y is the electrical power demand. This is Y. Look at the pointer. This is Y. The time period is X. To make easier using this formula, we can allocate 1 until 7 to each of year. For example, for year 2001, we allocate number 1. 2002, allocate 2. 2003, 3. We do it for all of the forecasting that we want to use this method. The method is the same. For each of period time, it's better you allocate 1 until that period that you have historical data. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Now, when you add up these numbers, yes, sigma x equal 28. Sigma x means 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7. It produces 28. X bar that we have in formula, X bar. Please look at the X bar. Can be calculated by sigma x divided by 7 because we have, this is the average of x. Yes, X bar. No. X bar means the sigma x divided by n. N here is 7 because we have 7 times. 7 years. Because we have 7 years for calculating or for forecasting, the n, yes, the n here is 7. Because 2001, 2002, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Sigma x can be calculated by summing these numbers, these 7 numbers together. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 3 produce 6. 6 plus 4, 10. 10 plus 5, 15. 15 plus 6, 21. 21 plus 7, 28. 28 divided by 7, x bar is 4. Now sigma y, 74 plus 79 plus 18 plus 19 plus 105 plus 142 plus 122 produce 692. This is sigma y or real demand in the past. Yes, all times should add and divide it by number of period times that you have. In this example, we use the 7 years, but you can use the 10 years, the 20 years. It's better. Every historical data exists in your hand. Every much historical data. You can forecast the more accurate. For example, if this company also use the 1999, 1998, 1997, it can be better for company. Now in this example, for better understanding, only imagine the company have used the 7 years, the last 7 years to forecast the future. It wants to forecast the 2008, 2009. So it wants to use the trend method. It wants to calculate the linear equation. And by use of this linear equation, they want to forecast the future. Sigma y, okay, please let me back to a slide. Sigma y is 692. Sigma y divided by 7 means y bar, 98.86. This is y bar. X in power of 2. What were x? What was x then? This one, the time period. X in power of 2 produce x. 2 in power of 2 produce 4. 3 in power of 2 produce 9. 4, 16. 5, 25. 6, 36. And 7, 49. They are the x in power of 2. Yes, we should do it because this is the rule. This is the method of this method. x in power of 2. X in power of 2 in mathematical. Do you remember? You should به توان 2. We call it in Farsi. Because we need 2 sigma x in power of 2 for calculating A and B. Look at the formula B. Sigma x in power of 2. Okay? So, we must calculate this. And xy is x multiply y. 1 multiply 74, reduce 74. 2 multiply 79, reduce 158. Yes, به توان 2. 3 multiply 80, reduce 240. For better doing this method, it's better exactly do these actions. Draw a table. In the left column, you should write the last years or last months or last days. Then, in the second column is the number that you assign to each of the period. Third column is the variable that you want to forecast, and also you have the historical data for that indeed. Then at first you calculate the x in power of 2, because 1 in power of 2 produce 1. 2 in power of 2 in 2002 produce 4. 3 in power of 2. Each of the time period should be calculated in power of its own number. Okay, Mr. Nikpur? No. The period 2002, we allocate a number to it. Okay. And also we should calculate xy. We are doing this trend because we need to use the formula to calculate A and B. We are doing all of these things that finally to find A and B. When you calculate xy, xy means x multiply y. 4 multiply 90, 360, and until now. And continue this. Sigma xy means you should sum up this number together. 74 plus 158 plus 240 plus 360 plus 525 reduce finally 3063. Okay, now we have calculated everything that is needed to use in formula B. B equals sigma xy. We calculated sigma xy. How much is that? 3000 3063. We write it here minus n. N here is 7 because we have 7 years. We have 7 period of time. Multiply x bar. X bar was calculated as much as 4. Multiply y bar. How much is y bar? 98.86. We calculate now, okay? Divided by sigma x2. Sigma x2 calculated 140. Minus n. N is 7. Minus x bar in power of 2. How much was x bar? 4. In power of 2, we write here Yes. If you calculate this, the B can be calculated as much as 10.54. Now we can calculate B. XY. XY means X multiply Y. What was X? The period time. What was the Y? The electrical power demand. 1 multiply 74 reduce 74 for first year 2001. 2 multiply 79 reduce 158. 3 multiply 18 reduce 214. Okay, very good. Now we should calculate A. A, what was the formula for A? A equal Y bar minus B multiply X bar. The Y bar, we calculated it. 98.86. B, how much B? 10.54 that we just calculated. And how much is X bar? 4. If you calculate this, the result will be 56.7. Okay. We can calculate A and B, and now we can write the linear equation. Y bar equal 56.7 plus 10.54 multiplied X. We can calculate a linear equation. If you want to forecast 2008, you can put the 8 instead of X and then calculate Y, forecast Y for 2008. If you want to forecast 2009, it's enough you put 9 instead of X here, and you can calculate 8 for 2009. If you put 1 instead of X, it's about 75. That if you see, the demand was the 74. This is the reason that we can calculate linear equation for the future. Because by use of this method, by use of these numbers, we succeeded to calculate linear equation and then forecast the future. You understand? It's very, very easy. It's a method. It's a very good method for calculating future, forecasting future. Sorry. Yes. 56.7 plus 10.54 multiply X. This is a linear equation. Yes, 56.7 or 7 is, they are the same from mathematical, no problem. Yes. The blue line, The blue line is the real demand around 2001 or 2007. And the violet line, this line. This is the trend line that we have calculated now. If you see, you will find out that the error is very little, and there is a little error between this forecasting and real. So we can simulate this trend by a line. Yes. Okay. Is there any question? Okay. It was clear. It was clear, guys. Are you available? Yes. It's very clear and very easy. Only it's enough to understand the methods and understand how you shoot the method. This is the same for all of the forecasting, and you can use them easily in your company. This is a square example. Okay. I think it's better to stop class now, because if go ahead, I'm scared to make confusing. Okay. I think today was the last class in current year, and the next class will be 2 weeks later. Yes. Yes, in current solar year. Okay. Please let me tell you Happy New Year in advance. I wish have a good year, have a nice year, and it will be a successful year. I hope this year is a successful year for all of you. Happy Nowruz, yes, and I wish have a nice time with your family in Nowruz holiday. Okay. If you have any question, don't hesitate. Send to me email. I will send you this slide and you can study. Yes, Nowruz is common holiday for all of us. Okay. If you have no question, the class has finished now. You can go and enjoy your holiday. Okay, sure. I will share the slide with you. Don't worry. Have a nice time, have a nice night, and have a nice holiday. Goodbye, everybody.